Today's show is brought to you by the Pittsburgh Dance Council, a project of the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust. For more than 50 years, the Pittsburgh Dance Council has been bringing world-class contemporary dance performances to downtown. And the new season looks so fun. We're talking folks from Taiwan, Cuba, Mexico, France, LA, and New York. And tickets are available now for the upcoming season. Plus, we've got a special offer for CityCast Pittsburgh listeners. Use promo code DANCECAST for 30% off your tickets. The deal is only good through this Sunday, October 13th, so visit trustarts.org/dance to get your seats now.
Pittsburgh Opera presents Puccini's Tosca, October 5th through 13th. Gloria Tosca must free her lover from the clutches of a corrupt police chief. This whirlwind thriller packs romance, dark motives, betrayal, murder, and intrigue into a plot that will keep you on the edge of your seat. See why Tosca is one of the most powerful operas ever. Learn more at pittsburghopera.org/Tosca. Pittsburgh Opera, where can we take you?
Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, there's a big old redesign coming for Pittsburgh Regional Transit and a whole bunch of ways for you to let the authority know how you feel about it. We're talking about arts funding and who it is and maybe should be going to. Plus, there's a big baseball meetup this weekend and a proposal to raise county property taxes. It's October 11th, the Friday News Roundup. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I'm with CityCast producers Mallory Falk and Sophia Lowe. Good morning.
Hello. Hello. We have got a little sports update to kick off the show. So our baseball season is officially over, and it was another terrible year for the Pirates, when isn't it? We've already talked about owner Bob Nutting's questionable choice to cut Rowdy Tellez and another player from the team right before the end of the season. Rowdy, of course, would have been eligible for a $200,000 performance bonus if he'd played probably just one more game.
It's wild.
I'd be so mad if that were me, and this move did not help Nutting's reputation in this city.
No way. And now a pair of brothers have launched what City Paper at least says is a scrappy mini protest against Bob Nutting.
Yeah, this was a fun little story. I guess these brothers held their own tiny protest at the city county building. Another Pirates fan stopped by at one point. He has started a petition urging Nutting to sell the team. I looked it up, and as of Thursday morning, this petition had 338 signatures. I do think it's a little silly that this two-person protest got news coverage in the first place, but it's also the kind of thing I love about our city, how much people will unite against a sports villain.
Yeah, totally. One more sportsy thing too. Saturday Night Live sort of picked on Pennsylvania twice this past weekend. So there were two skits, one about Washington crossing the Delaware and one set at Oakmont, where we're going to be hosting the U.S. Open next year. We talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Golf, U.S. Open, not tennis.
Correct.
Important clarification.
Very. That skit was not super kind to animals, so be warned. For your money, I think the Washington crossing one is actually the funnier skit.
I'm taking issue with you calling the Washington Crossing one, picking on Pennsylvania, because that is New Jersey. I grew up like 5-10 miles away from where Washington crossed the Delaware. There are like reenactments every single year. He was going to Trenton in New Jersey. This is something for New Jersey to claim, not Pennsylvania.
Look, you can have that fight all you want to, but I'm looking at Wikipedia and it says the location of this event was Washington Crossing, Pennsylvania. So PA apparently claims it too.
We can fight about this later.
We'll move on to the news. Pittsburgh Regional Transit is redesigning their bus lines for the first time in more than a decade. So they just dropped the first draft of the proposed redesign, and the goal is to put out a final map in the spring and have the whole system up and running by 2026. Sophia, as our most regular bus rider among us, you dug into the details. So give us your highlights for the redesign.
So I looked at my lines in a lot of detail, so I'll turn to WESA to give big picture updates. So there will be fewer bus routes overall, but buses will come more often and the routes will end up reaching more neighborhoods. So PRT also says they're emphasizing equity in this whole plan, so they want to bring improved service to neighborhood where there's a lot of low income and or minority residents. And just a few other things to look forward to, at least by like my measure, there are going to be fewer downtown transfers. So right now, a ton of buses all over the city come into downtown for changeovers. And, anyone who's been there lately can say there is just a lot of traffic.
So
and
much.
This is not the most efficient way to get around our city. And things have obviously changed a lot in the past few years and how we go downtown and get around. There's going to be more routes to places like grocery stores, hospitals, and shopping centers, more direct routes to get to Oakland, and then one big change to the 28X to the airport, no more stopping at the Robinsons Shopping Center.
I mean, does that mean that you're going to start taking the bus to the airport then, Sophia?
Honestly, probably not. TBD. I think the thing that's going to be a real game changer is adding luggage racks to the buses.
I don't see that happening anytime soon, but maybe, who knows?
Who knows?
I think there's some kind of law that there cannot be a quick, easy, convenient way for Pittsburghers to get to the airport. This is written in stone somewhere. But Sophia, do you have any other thoughts as a bus rider, having kind of looked at this whole thing? Is there anything that you're really excited about or any issues you think still need to get addressed?
Yeah, I heard they're updating the names to all the routes too. And I do see the wisdom in that because they make no logical sense to me as they are.
Just numbers.
Yeah, they're just numbers and they skip a lot of numbers and I don't know why they start so high anyway. But I can also see how that might confuse people, at least when it first kicks off.
Yeah, I am going to need to double check my bus schedules and numbers again because I will probably be one of those folks that gets a little confused. There are going to be letters introduced to the system. If you see a D in front of the bus name, that means it's going downtown. O for going to Oakland. Those are sort of the big ones, but the things I'm really excited for is this new route that'll take you from the East End to Millvale. There's not a direct way to get there right now.
Right.
And that's going to be so great for things concerts at Mr. Small's because parking there, not super easy.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of improvements coming to the busway, more frequent service. So that is something that I think I'm going to try taking a little more because I feel consistent service is something that PRT doesn't always have. One thing I'm still concerned about, though, is none of this, directly addresses ghost buses or low staffing. So, you can make all these plans for buses coming at more regular intervals and stuff. But, you need to have the infrastructure and the staff to be able to support that, too.
Right.
Yeah, Pittsburghers for Public Transit, I'd say they're probably the biggest advocacy organization around our regional transit systems. They say that they are approaching this whole redesign process with caution. Their take is that PRT should, quote, do no harm. So nothing that would further reduce ridership or hurt already marginalized communities.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, people are usually upset about individual changes to their regular routes, so I'm sure this will not be easy.
Yeah, for example, I'm a little peeved that the 87 or, whatever its new name is going to be a longer walk for me, especially because it's going to be at the bottom of a hill, which isn't a huge issue for me day to day. But if you're hauling your groceries up a hill or pushing a stroller or something up a hill, I feel like that could get kind of tricky.
Yeah. Well, especially in the winter too, when we get ice and snow, is that hill treated or not? Because that really affects your how that works for you.
That's something I think we're going to see how that actually gets put into practice. And then, I've seen comments on Reddit about how this bus change is really going to hurt people living in the suburbs or trying to get to the suburbs. One thing that is going to be improved is there will be more transfers in the suburbs themselves. But it seems like people are also worried about how often those buses are going to come or, losing a direct route straight to downtown.
Yeah. Another thing I've seen a comment or two about is also just the timing of buses. Some lines might get service once an hour on the weekends, which is kind of annoying for...
That's kind of what happens for some bus lines now, too, which is annoying. I hate taking the buses on the weekends, but
Well, and I am so... I'm in awe of you because you're very good at being nope, gotta go right now. See you later, bye. Because I don't do that. I don't set boundaries. I just keep doing one more task, one more task. I know, and I'm terrible at that. And instead, I I'll try to fit more in, and then I will absolutely miss the bus every time. PRT says this will be a cost neutral plan, which they say means keeping like roughly the same amount of service that we have now. But I think this is important. Pittsburghers for Public Transit pointed out that there have been a decent amount of service cuts since the pandemic. And so in their words, this redesign could potentially lock in austerity levels, like this bare minimum service, for the long term. And so some communities might get better transit at the expense of others.
Yeah, I think that's what's so tough is when things get taken away, they're very rarely given back. And so if we are
and they should be
doing this
expanded.
if this whole redesign is based on an already lower number of routes in service, that's pretty rough.
But I mean, we also heard our transit leaders here and in Harrisburg just talk about how enormously expensive this is, and there's just not enough money to do everything that they want to do. So I do see the challenge for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, obviously, this is all still in its early stages. So if there's something that you don't like or you want to see, you should tell PRT. They have been doing a bunch of public meetings to get feedback. There's another one coming up as soon as this morning at 10:30 in the Penn Hills Library. There's another one on Monday in Millville, Tuesday in Oakland and Wilkinsburg, Wednesday at Chenley Plaza, Friday at Allegheny Commons Park, right by the farmers market. And then there's also an online meeting on October 24th from 6 to 7:30 p.m.
And then if you want to see any of this for yourself, definitely go to that PRT website. You can see changes for like the individual bus lines. There's a short survey on that lines page, and then a feature on the map of the entire redesign where you can post a comment in like a specific spot of like the map, and PRT can see all the comments.
Yeah, it's a really cool feature. You can't see other people's comments, but you can see questions that people have posted publicly and the responses that PRT is giving. You gotta scroll way down to the bottom of, I think it's the homepage of the bus redesign to find that. There's a lot of information, a lot of surveys, a lot of ways to give feedback. And then Pittsburghers for Public Transit also has a research committee. It's open for anyone to join if you want to, be investigating this with other people. They meet on Fridays virtually at 3 p.m. and they're going to be diving deep into the bus redesign in the next few meetings. And of course, we will drop links with more info about all of this in our show notes.
Today's show is brought to you by the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council. We know how much Yins love finding out about new events here on our podcast and in our Hey Pittsburgh newsletter. But if you're looking for even more options, we cannot say enough about the weekly arts and culture events roundups from our friends at the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council. Their arts blog has local arts and culture recommendations for every single day of the week, no exaggeration, including exhibits, concerts, performances, films, literary events, and so much more, all happening right here in our region. If you've ever gotten FOMO from missing out on a gorgeous local art opening or an installation that all your friends are posting about, I am pretty sure the Arts Council had the scoop. Be like us and check them out at pittsburghartscouncil.org or follow them on Instagram at PGH Arts Council.
What's up? It's me, Don Tolliver. If I could describe the open earbud, I would describe it as very seamless. It's like you clip it onto your ear, and then sometimes you can forget it's there, but it's not going anywhere because it's like clipped. It's kind of crazy. If I could bring my music with me wherever I go, it'd just make life easier and seamless without interruption. To be able to have the music on hand like that without any interruptions would be great. Check out Bose.com for more.
Next up, arts funding, and how who's been getting that money is not really reflective of our community. A fun editor's note here: by complete coincidence, we also have an ad running right now with a group that we are about to talk about. If you are not a member of CityCast Pittsburgh, you may have actually just heard it, or you may be about to here in a minute. Fun fact, we here on the news team have zero to do with who buys our ads and when they air. So again, very big coincidence.
Right. Not our call, but we are very grateful to the organizations who spend with us. We have the best listeners in the game. So anyway, some rough news coming here, but it will be followed by some cool opportunities for people to win some money and display their art.
But bad news first. Over the summer, that group, the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council, they released a report about the racial inequities in Pittsburgh's art funding. So not surprisingly, white organizations got a disproportionately large amount of funding.
Yeah, we wrote a little bit about this in our Hey Pittsburgh newsletter, building on some great reporting by Bill O'Driscoll at WESA. There was a report from 2018 that looked back as far as 2003. And so this one is an update. And spoiler alert, things have not improved very much.
Yeah. So this new version of the report gets us up to 2023. So it includes, the start of the pandemic years. And the Arts Council found that only 16% of arts funding in our region went to groups that are led by or primarily serve people of the global majority. That's a term the Arts Council is using and includes Black, African, Asian, Brown, dual heritage folks, and just anyone who's an ethnic minority in the U.S. This is slightly up from the last report when it was 14%, but the benchmark for equity here would really be 23% of funding going to global majority orgs.
And I mean, when I read that, that benchmark goal is so low to me, still so low, because if you combine all those groups and you want it to be genuinely reflective of our city, according to the U.S. Census, it should be more like 35%. So it doesn't feel like the Arts Council is asking for a lot there. If 35 is actually reflective and they just want to get to 23, but we're actually hitting 16, gosh, that's depressing.
Yeah, it's probably worth mentioning too here that the Arts Council isn't just pointing fingers. They're also really clear in the report and in the way it's been covered in news reports this summer that they also need to do better.
Yeah, I actually talked to someone over there. So they have a requirement now that 51% of their awards must go to the groups defined as global majority. And just a teeny bit of background, they are re-granters.
Right.
So they get money from the Pennsylvania Council for the Arts and others, and they help distribute that money here locally. So they do mixers and stuff to help artists network and host all kinds of trainings for people to, navigate filing those applications, getting their ducks in a row to pursue funding. But they themselves are also sometimes the ones that decide who gets awarded money. But this report considers way more than just them. It's also the big foundations and others. They have a lot more money to spend than what the Arts Council usually has. But anyway, the Arts Council itself is both conduit, a very good one, but also arbiter.
Okay, but now as promised, we've got some good funding news. So first off, there's something called an AIR grant, which stands for Artist Income Recovery Grants. This got promoted a while back. It was supposed to be just a small amount of money to help artists who lost income during the pandemic, but that program ended up getting more funding than expected. And now they have picked their recipients, and those names should be public in November, so next month.
Yeah, and then there's another new funding opportunity coming up, so something to watch out for, to apply for. It's called the Creative Entrepreneur Accelerator. So that one's through the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council. They'll have more info up about it, I think, really soon. And then the city also just released more money, too. $785,000, mostly distributed among 6 established arts groups here in the city. So those groups are then going to pass it on to different artists for all kinds of work. I don't know if y'all remember this, but it was part of that $2 million allocation that was promised during the Peduto administration. But his term ended, and now it was Gainey's job to distribute it. But Gainey's crew kind of got into a little bit of a scuffle about it because he had proposed briefly using some of it to pay for capital projects instead of giving it to artists. That did not happen. It stayed where it was, and now some of it is finally moving. But I had completely forgotten about it maybe getting taken, and now it's back. And anyway, it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it is very critical to fund capital projects like bridges, but it's also important to support the artists in our city. So I'm glad that it's moving in the right direction now.
Especially if that money was promised to them in the first place. I would be mad if I thought money was coming my way and then it was not there.
And of course, it's been 2 years, too.
Exactly.
So, anyway, I'm excited to see what those arts groups do with all this. And please check out those equity reports, too, if you get a chance. We'll also link Bill's story about them, too. It just has so much detail about the last one, plus this one. He's been an arts reporter here in Pittsburgh for actual decades, and he's just so good at it. The man does not miss. So check him out, too.
Hi, this is David Plotz of CityCast. Have you thought about a gift for yourself this year? One that has the power to help you grow and learn and become a better version of yourself? Give yourself the gift of language by getting Babbel. With quick 10-minute lessons handcrafted by language experts, Babbel gets you talking a new language in 3 weeks. Because talking is the key to really knowing a language. And that's how Babbel approaches it. It's designed for real conversation. So I have a trip to France planned with my girlfriend. Was it inspired by the Olympics? Yes, it was. And it's given me the chance to revive my old high school French. And it's so fun to catch back up with the vocabulary I'd forgotten. To remember all the food, for example. I'm in a lesson on ingredients, so I'm going to make crepes with butter and sugar. Avec sucre et de beurre salé, on va se régaler. We're going to have a feast. They learned this great new French expression too. J'en ai l'eau à la bouche. That means I have water in the mouth. That means it's mouth-watering. Love it. Love French. Anyway, Babbel gets you talking, and studies from Yale and Michigan State University and other leading universities prove that it works. So here is a special holiday deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast, spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
And I have one more arts opportunity to highlight. It is not grant funding, but it does come with award money. So this arts initiative, it's a call for artwork, and it's called Envisioning a Just Pittsburgh. So it's the second year that this program has been in place. So many groups are involved, and they're trying to bring artists together from different backgrounds and have them make art that imagines what justice and equality looks like in our city and hit on themes like community resilience. And you can also submit so many different types of work, short stories, poetry, mixed media, sculpture, painting, graphic design, dance. Someone cut me off. But there's also submissions open for youth artists too, so 17 and under.
That's really neat.
Yeah, I remember when news about this dropped. Like you said, Sophia, there's so many groups involved, like the Carnegie Art Museum, Pitt, the August Wilson Center, One Hood, even our libraries.
And I actually talked to someone over at the Art Museum about this, Gina Weinstead. They're the vice president for inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility there. She seemed really happy about how Envisioning a Just Pittsburgh went last year, and I'll pass it off to her to share more about the submissions they got the first time around.
They varied. They covered things like gender, like being a young Black youth in the city of Pittsburgh and trying to get home at night. They talked about things like one of our poets wrote a poem about their child who had transitioned and kind of experiencing different moments of mistreatment from their friends and their circle and their community by proxy of being a parent of a child who was transgender. And so it was really great to allow people to have this avenue to express themselves and express themselves publicly, for other people to better understand those struggles. Because it's one thing to live in that struggle and to talk among your peers about it, but when you're able to share with other people who don't maybe share that experience already, that's how we break down walls. That's how we build up people. That's how we build confidence, and how we build connections to people who we maybe don't already have connections with.
So Gina said last year there was a showcase in February timed with Black History Month. They're doing it again this year. The programming's still being figured out. They've got a few months. And then some artists will also have their work displayed in spots like the libraries or the museums, and they will get paid. So there's up to 40 awards for displaying your work. It's $50 each. And then there's also first place and runner-up submissions. Monetary prizes come with those. So adults can win $2,000 for a first place piece, and the youth first place winners get $750.
$750 was so much money when I was a teenager. It was an uncommon amount of cash.
Right?
So artists, submit your work. Submissions for this one are completely free, which I think makes it kind of unique and cool. You've got until October 20th. And everyone else, just get pumped to see what cool work your neighbors are going to create.
Right. I love how this is like so community oriented. And here's Gina again. I asked her what they thought could be done to better support artists here, thinking back to that report from the Arts Council. And I thought she just ended on a more hopeful note, kind of looking ahead to how we could do better.
I think that the city of Pittsburgh is struggling right now figuring out what art organizations to support from a higher level. And I think sometimes artists start to feel disenfranchised and neglected. And so then we start to lose artists, or we start to see people go to bigger cities that they think will help to support them better financially. And we've lost so many great big names over the years. And we want to be able to retain that talent. And that's the message that is secondary, but also at the heart of envisioning a Just Pittsburgh is you don't have to leave Pittsburgh to be successful. And I want that message to come through. And I want organizations to continuously think how they can support the artist community. Because a lot of folks who run big organizations like PNC, UPMC, BNY, they have artists embedded in their staff continuously. Our first place winner worked in IT at BNY last year. And, he was poured into a little bit and supported through mentorship programs. So I just want everyone to think about how they're supporting the art community, whether it's someone that they know that they love that is a writer, a poet, or who sketches occasionally, but asking them about their artwork, asking them what they have applied for recently, asking them where they have showcased their work, or if they're looking for an opportunity to showcase their work, and creating those opportunities that don't exist yet, because there's so many more opportunities left to be created for us to put our best talent on display.
Very well said. So before we go, what will each of you be thinking about this weekend? Mallory, I think you should start.
Property taxes.
Oh, no.
Everyone's favorite
we were
topic.
feeling hopeful, Mallory.
I know, but it's important Pittsburgh news. We got to share. So our county executive, Sarah Innamorato, she unveiled her plan for the 2025 budget earlier this week, and she is proposing the county's first property tax increase in 12 years.
I don't imagine that's very popular.
No.
Yeah, there's going to be some strong feelings about this, I predict. So this tax hike would raise the millage rate 2.2 mils, if that means anything to you. But her administration doesn't want this to hit individual homeowners too hard. So she is also proposing an increase to the homestead exemption.
Yeah, which is essentially like a tax break for people who own one home that they live in full time. Like if you have a bunch of properties or a vacation home or something, you may have to pay more taxes. But literally almost everyone in Allegheny County qualifies for the homestead exemption, like as long as you aren't a landlord or property investor. Also of note, it's good for like a certain amount of value of your home, but you do have to apply for it. Like you do not just automatically get it. But then once you do, it's good for as long as you own your home.
Yeah, you don't need to reapply.
Yeah, so under these changes, someone whose home is assessed at $110,000 would pay about $15 more each month. $110,000 is the median home value in Allegheny County. So all told, these tax increases would bring in about $167 million more for the county, which Innamorato and county councilors say is desperately needed right now. But this is just a proposal. County Council has until December to vote on the budget, and Council is going to be holding budget hearings on October 17th, 28th, and 30th at 5 p.m. So if you have strong feelings about this proposal, you can go and make your voice heard.
So I'm going to take it in a completely different direction for what I'm thinking about. Today, Kennywood is hosting its second annual worm eating contest.
What?
That's the only appropriate response. What?
So,
like actual worm eating?
Yeah. So what they're doing this year is potato patch fries and then, got the cheese on top. But instead of bacon, it's going to be 15 live mealworms.
No. Live mealworm? They don't even bother to like deep fry them or something for you?
I feel like that kind of defeats the purpose.
Why would you do that to a potato patch fry?
That's terrible. Wait, Sophia, what is your stake in this?
I wanted to enter. They picked 15 random people, but I missed the deadline because I wasn't paying attention. I'm also a little upset that they changed the rules from last year. Last year, it was just 10 mealworms that were just like on a plate. I guess you had to kind of catch them, though. That I felt much better about because now I feel like it's just a race to eat potato patch fries. Like, come on, you're telling me if they're drowned in cheese? Like, you've eaten a bug in your salad before. Like, this is basically that.
But I didn't have to think about it in advance.
I need you to bring the insider perspective here and explain to me what is appealing about this. What would draw you to sign up for this?
Last year, the prize was, I think, 4 gold season passes, so saving a lot of money.
Okay.
This year, I believe the prize is 2 platinum passes. I don't think it's quite as good as 4 gold passes, just because, like, you can get more people. But, you know, a prize is a prize. I like winning.
They're like, now that we're throwing in some fries, we got to downgrade the prize.
Exactly. And now there's more people competing too, so like less of a chance. I will maybe watch TBD because if everyone else is watching, I'm going to be writing stuff with no line.
I love how this comes down to just being a cheap Pittsburgher. Got it. Okay.
Exactly. But on a more serious note, one thing I'm also going to recommend is Spotlight PA's quizzes for state candidates for the upcoming election. They've got quizzes if you're unsure who you're going to vote for state treasurer or the attorney general.
Like a quiz, like if these things are important to you, this is the candidate you should vote for.
Yup, it feels very BuzzFeed.
Wow. I mean, for what it's worth, I think Spotlight PA and Public Source both have been totally killing it lately with their voter guides this year. Public Source in particular has them broken down by county. And I don't know about y'all, I've had folks all over the region who ask me, because I work in news, like, where can I go for a good, clear resource to get a sense of a candidate's positions on things? I didn't know about the Spotlight PA quizzes, so I'll add that into rotation. But I almost always send them to one or both of these outlets. They're just doing such a phenomenal job.
And on that topic, a quick reminder here that the deadline to register to vote, if you haven't already, is October 21st. So get your registration in.
Yes, definitely. I will be thinking this weekend about a big baseball anniversary. So we started with the Pirates. Now we're going to be ending with them. That feels right. 64 years ago, this Sunday, the Pirates won the World Series. Can you even imagine it? In Game 7 with a walk-off home run. It is still the only time in baseball history that that's ever happened. Second baseman Bill Mazeroski became a total legend after that. It was our first time back in the World Series at the time. That was 1960. So before that, we had not been since 1927. So the city was losing it. Also, our city was double the size back then. Like our population was huge in 1960. So it had been a long drought. People were very excited.
Sounds familiar.
I know. And then, so ever since then, October 13th has been Bill Mazeroski Day here in Pittsburgh. And for like 30 years now, a bunch of people who call themselves the Game 7 Gang have gathered at the Forbes Field Wall over in Oakland to listen to a broadcast together of that 1960 game.
That's so cute.
Really sweet. Yeah,
yes.
I love that.
So to relive the whole thing, it started out with literally one dude that first year, and now hundreds of people attend every year. It's just something cool and free to think about this weekend now that our modern day Pirates are once again done early this season.
Maybe next year's going to be the one.
Yeah, definitely. That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. If you haven't, please consider a membership to CityCast Pittsburgh. It gets you ad-free listening, members-only access to upcoming events, plus you can be secure in the knowledge that you are helping keep our little operation going. Our music is by Benji. Mallory Falk is our executive producer. Sophia Lowe and Selena C.A. Reynolds produce the show. Francesca DeBecco writes our newsletter, and I'm your host, Megan Harris. We'll be back on Tuesday in observance of Indigenous Peoples Day, when we'll have more news from around the city. Have a great long weekend, everyone. Friday is the unofficial lawn mowing day in my neighborhood, so I don't think there's anything I can do about this.
It's Thursday.